Hello Facebook, hello YouTube, what is up everybody? This is Ruben and I'm back with another Ruben Report. For today's video, we're going to be doing my final review on my 2021 model CSC RX3, my long-term 1-year review. And if you guys have been following along with my channel already and seen other reviews that I've done in the past, you already know what the deal is. We're going to be starting things off with a little bit of a background about myself, so you guys can get an understanding of what perspective I'm coming from critiquing this motorcycle. But seeing those other reviews, they're very lengthy, and with this particular review video, I want to avoid that. I'm going to try to stick straight to the point, talk about things that are quite important, because all the other details you can always go to those other videos to see more in depth, especially the video that I just released comparing this bike with my new bike. It goes in an in-depth detail about a lot of different features and aspects, so be sure to check that out. Before we get started, I'm going to show you guys the mileage and then we'll start talking about it. So here is my final mileage, 7,401.4 miles. All right, so to give you guys a little bit of perspective, when I first bought this bike, or really in general, the reason why I wanted to purchase a motorcycle overall was to save money on gas. I have a video that I released quite a while ago on my channel called "Should You Buy a CSC Motorcycle to Save Money on Gas?" Again, I go in much further detail of the thought process and my perspective of what led me to purchase a motorcycle, and then ultimately what led me to purchase a CSC motorcycle. At the time, I was a fairly new rider, and not too long ago, before I bought this bike, my very first bike was actually a TT250, so another Chinese bike. So really, my perspective of motorcycles, or my experience with motorcycles, has been primarily Chinese bikes. I had the TT250 for about 3 months, only put about 115, 110 miles on it. Its main purpose was for me to learn how to ride on it, and then I was ready to purchase a motorcycle that was potentially a lot more capable to serve my commuting needs. My commuting needs were to ride or to commute about 60 miles a day on back roads mainly, and I wanted to have a motorcycle to substitute my pickup truck, because my pickup truck got 13 miles to the gallon, and through my research, motorcycles seem to be the most effective, economical methods of transportation that could help me save money on gas. So coming from that perspective, not really knowing too much about motorcycles, and just in general being very curious about buying a brand new bike that came so well equipped from the factory. You guys have probably seen it on the website. It has crash guards and boxes. I have them over there at the moment. And yeah, the USB plug and a whole bunch of different things that just made this bike a full package that was great for the purpose of commuting, especially with add-ons such as a center stand and even a tall seat for someone as big as I am, me being 6'5". That was pretty much one of the main dilemmas of me searching around. I was just trying to find a bike that would fit someone of my size, being so tall. And the RX3 seemed to check all the boxes, because on paper it looks so appealing. And reading forums and seeing videos, or having stories like 5,000 miles at 8,000 RPM, others out there sort of proving its reliability in certain aspects, it made it feel appealing. But throughout my research, I never found anyone who was actually using the bike for the purpose of which I wanted to use a bike, which was daily commuting. I mean, yes, there's folks out there who have reached 20,000 miles, but that's 20,000 miles over the span of 5, 6, 7 years. I wanted to reach potentially 15,000 miles in 1 year. And so that's what this video is going to be about. How this motorcycle, after 1 year of ownership, pretty much how my ownership experience has been using it for that purpose. Riding it every single day as a main method of transportation, really a substitute for my pickup truck. All right, and so this part of the video, I just want to start talking about certain things you want to look out for when it comes to getting one of these bikes, if you are interested in getting one of them. The first being the headlight. The headlight that it comes with stock, it's a halogen bulb. It's not all that great. You can go ahead and upgrade it to an LED, especially if you're going to be planning to ride during the nighttime to increase your visibility a lot better. And if you're going to be in areas where it's pretty remote, where there's not much street lights, it's going to be really dark, it would be a really good idea to add some auxiliary lights as well. I have a video on my channel for night riding to show you the difference between the LED headlight and the auxiliary lights. I'll probably show you guys a clip here.
Here's a video snippet of the stock halogen bulb.
It's the low beam, and then that will be the high beam.
And here is a picture of the low beam headlight for my newly installed LED. And then the high beam. And then this is the final product with the high beam and my 2 auxiliary lights.
All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the stock chain. The stock chain on the motorcycle generally only lasts between 1,500 to 2,000 miles before it starts to excessively stretch. It doesn't fly off, but just around that mileage mark, many owners have reported, and this has also been my experience as well, the chain becomes very stretched, and pretty much after every single ride, you're going to have to adjust it. Okay, it gets very, very sloppy. So you can choose to just ride the bike until you reach that mileage and then swap it, or you can just swap it with a good quality Japanese chain, from the start, and then not have to worry about it.
And once again, I have a video of me doing the chain upgrade on my bike. You guys can get the details on how to get this done. Go ahead and check that out.
All right, the next item I want to talk about is the spark plug. The spark plug that's in there, it's okay. I mean, the bike runs, but I would recommend that you upgrade it to like an Iridium or an E3 plug. The bike just overall runs a lot better. It gets better fuel economy. It feels like it has a lot more responsiveness. And so throughout my MPG experiment series that I have on my channel, I was able to gain over 2 MPG with just changing a spark plug to an Iridium spark plug. So that's something I would really recommend that you do.
I also have a video on my channel of me replacing a spark plug. Go ahead and check it out. It's called the MPG Experiment Part 2, and I measure the MPG performance of this new Iridium plug.
Other than that, just accessorize the bike for your particular use case. Again, as far as commuting is concerned, it was really great to be able to put the handguards on there, the heated grips, things of that nature. Center stand is great. It allows you to clean the chain and do certain maintenances a lot easier. But now we're going to talk about certain issues that I've been experiencing with this bike, starting with valve recession. Now, I've made an entire video in depth and in detail about my entire history with this issue. I'm going to have it at the end of this video. So if you want a lot more detail on that topic, please watch that video. Okay. But valve recession on this bike basically rendered this bike quite useless as a commuter bike, because the more that you ride it, the more excessive the valve recession became. It got so bad to where I had to adjust the valves every 180 miles or every 300 miles. It just depended how I adjusted them. And so, like I said, my commute was 60 miles a day. So I was able to go 3 days before needing to give the valves attention. And then I would go pretty much the whole week and then have to give the valves attention. But wrenching on this bike literally every couple days or every week, having to go through a 2-hour, hour and a half process to get to the valves, and having to do that so often just really made this bike unusable, especially because every day that you have to do the valve adjustment, you're supposed to let the bike sit for 24 hours. So it's just unusable for a certain amount of time, which became very frustrating. And the downtime overall really affected my ability to use the bike as for its intended purpose, which is to save money on gas. And in a lot of instances, I was actually forced to use my pickup truck to commute to work for the remaining days instead of using the bike for its intended purpose. And again, you can watch that video where I attempted to have this issue addressed by replacing the head by CSC.
Here's a snippet of the video where I actually took my bike all the way down to CSC to have it serviced, and we went ahead and took the bike off and we brought it into the shop to tear it down completely to redo the entire top end. Here's a snapshot of my old head, and once again there's going to be a video that I'm going to be linking at the very end of this video that goes in a lot more detail about the valve recession issue. It's here on my channel called CSC RX3 Valve Recession Issue, Everything We Know So Far. I also have a video depicting the entirety of the engine teardown. So if this is something that you experience on your bike, you can watch this video on how to tear the engine down and replace all those engine components. So it's almost 3 hours long, but it's the whole process.
But with the second head, it was just a matter of time before the issue resurfaced. And so valve recession has been something I've been dealing with this bike the entirety of the ownership experience. And I know you've probably heard this book or read this book, 5,000 miles at 8,000 RPM. I just don't see it. I've been riding this bike at around 6,000 to 7,000 RPM. Again, only 60 miles a day. And I couldn't seem to get further than 300 miles before needing to give attention to the valves. But that's no surprise to many of you out there, that have speculations about the quality of Chinese-built machines. The next issue that I've had with this motorcycle has been the fasteners. Just going right back into the build quality, the fasteners on this bike are really poor, and pairing together with having to service the bike so often, it's only a matter of time. You can only take a really poor screw in and out so many times before it fails on you. And there's a video that Fortnine did, it's a famous YouTuber, where he talks about motorcycle metallurgy and materials that manufacturers use to put motorcycles together. It's a very informative video that I really encourage you to watch. I'm going to show you guys a clip of it here.
All right, in this snippet, we're just going to take a look at the fasteners, but as you guys can see here, he talks about a lot of different motorcycle components. So it's really informational, a really educational video, and I encourage you to watch. A link for this video is going to be in the description.
You know that sick feeling when you're tightening a bolt and it just stops getting tighter?
Metallurgically, I've exceeded the bolt's yield point.
Aluminum has a yield strength of just 250 megapascals. Titanium and steel are both stronger at 800, but if an alu bolt weighs 5 grams, titanium is 10 and steel is 20, so... Okay, aluminum bolts for light bodywork, and for the rest, titanium.
But then I remember galling, and how titanium galls pretty bad.
So tie bolts must be coated in anti-seize. That's a bit precious. Nut polishers will say it's worth it because titanium doesn't rust, but who cares?
Galvanic corrosion is the culprit that matters. It's caused by the minute electric current traveling between dissimilar metals, from the more anodic to the more cathodic.
Sure, titanium heads stay blindingly devoid of surface rust, but it's galvanic corrosion between my aluminum cases and the threads of my bolt metal that gets them stuck.
And on the galvanic series, titanium is more dissimilar to aluminum than steel, so tie bolts cause more corrosion seizures. The pursuit of performance keeps bringing me back to cheap steel.
So having to deal with low build quality and poor metallurgy on this bike really ties into a lot of the issues that I've been having with it. The next issue that I've also been experiencing with the bike has been some electrical issues. I just recently found out that my cigarette outlet on the bike doesn't work. Also the neutral sending unit for when the bike goes into neutral. I guess I'll just show you guys. So the bike is in neutral as right now. It generally is supposed to show you a green N here,
as shown here in one of my older videos.
so generally the bike should start if you press on the button. The kill switch is in the on position, but because the neutral switch doesn't work, you have to pull in the clutch first and then press the button. And then it turns on. Not a huge deal, but it's still there. I'm going to show you guys a clip of the charging ports on here.
All right, in this test, we're going to be testing some of the features that are on the RX3, in particular the USB charging and also the 12-volt outlet. I wanted to show you guys how it actually charges your phone, or how effective it is at charging your phone versus just getting something off of Amazon and connecting it directly to your battery. So the RX3 does not necessarily need to run for the USB port to work. However, the bike has been sitting for a while, and I want to have it run because I don't know if it's just going to drain the battery, because the bike does need to be it has to be on at least. The USB port is not a direct connection to the battery. This, I believe, is, but this isn't. So I'm gonna fill the bike up with some oil because I don't think it has much, and I don't want the bike to be running for too long because I don't want to seize up the engine. So I'm gonna fill it up with some oil. We're gonna run it. We're gonna plug up the phone, and we're gonna see how much it charges the battery after about 15 minutes. All right, she's topped off with some oil now, and we're gonna go ahead and hook up the phone and let her run. All right, here we go. We're gonna set the timer for 15 minutes. And it's on. I went ahead and sped this part of the video up because I know you guys don't want to sit around and watch my phone screen for 15 minutes straight. I also was trying to fiddle around with the phone and the settings to figure out a way to display the battery percentage in a more legible way, but at the end I pretty much found the most effective way at showing it. So we'll see the battery percentage at the end.
All right, so as you guys can see there, we were able to charge to 38%. So we gained a total of 3% in battery over the course of
15 minutes.
And that was pretty much having the screen constantly on at max brightness. Generally when I ride, especially during the daytime, the phone is at max brightness because you can barely see it in the sun. So we're gonna go ahead and put the phone on my KLR with my $15 Amazon charger, and we're gonna see how far the charger on the KLR will boost the battery up. All right, same drill. We're gonna be going for 15 minutes. The battery actually shows 37% right now, so that's our starting percentage. With the KLR, I don't have to run the bike because it's tied directly to the battery, so I'm just going to go ahead and press start, and we're going to turn this on, and it is going. So as you guys saw there, I was able to reach 54% with the charger on my KLR. So $15 from Amazon will get you a charger that is 6 times better than the charger that's on the RX3. And mind you, this phone here, there's no SIM card in it, as you guys can see. There's no SIM card. There's no radios working. There's no GPS going. There's no music playing. Usually, when I was doing my road trip all the way down from LA, you know, I had my GPS going. It was connecting to the satellite for the GPS signal. It was playing music via Bluetooth to my helmet. And so when you have the screen constantly on with GPS going and playing music and things of that nature, when you have things going on your phone, the RX3 virtually doesn't even charge it. It almost stays. It pretty much stays at the same percent that whatever percent it's at. So if it was at 30%, it would just stay there. It wouldn't charge it anymore. And in some cases, after a very long period of time, I would actually go down 1%, like after an hour or so. So the RX3, as far as actually charging your phone through the USB port, especially if you're actually using it for navigation and things of that nature, it does not do a very good job at all. Doing the same thing with this bike doesn't matter if I'm doing whatever on my phone. Every time when I hop on and ride to work, I could have 30%. By the time I get to work, I'm like at 70 or 80%. It really does an extremely good job at charging my phone. And you know, I know the back roads of and the route all the way to my job, so I never have the GPS going or anything like that. I usually have the phone turned off, or not turned off, but the screen off, right? So it does an excellent job at actually charging your phone, where the RX3, it's really lackluster. Okay, I would test the charging ability of the 12-volt outlet socket, but mine doesn't really seem to work. I don't know if it ever did, so we'll just add that to the long list of things that's already wrong with my bike. The charger, it does work. This is what it would look like if it was actually working. It would be all lit up. So seeing that video of how the charging ports are, one of the main selling points about this bike is that it comes with a whole bunch of features, right? You're getting this bike, low price point, all these features. but the features don't really work all that well, especially when $15 off Amazon gets you a part that is literally 5-6 times better, you know. So it's kind of deceptive in that sense. Another aspect about the features on the bike, the luggage. I guess the main thing that I don't like a lot about the luggage is that you can't keep them unlocked. All right, you can't take the key out. You always have to lock it. And so basically, let's say, for example, you go to the store, you load up the stuff, and you come back home. Me personally, I like to just keep them unlocked, so that way, once I get home, I can just open them up really quick. Or you're just stopping somewhere really quick. You just want to get in and out of the boxes quickly. It's not that much of a hassle, but it's just not as convenient having to literally unlock every single box to be able to get inside of it. But that's one thing that I like about the luggage system that I have on here, is I can lock it if I want to, but I can just get in and out of it a lot easier, and they're also a lot bigger. The amount of storage that you get on the stock boxes with the RX3 is about 50 liters. The left side pannier is also a lot bigger than the right side. Because this one's cut for the exhaust, so you lose quite a bit of space on this one. Fitting bulkier items in there is a bit of a challenge, so I would generally just use, especially when going grocery shopping, I would generally just use the top box and the side box for most things, and then you would just put your small items in the other one. Alright, so talking a little bit more about certain issues. Sometimes when you come to a stop, rolling from higher RPMs down to lower RPMs, the bike would just stall. This is generally tied to the valves being too tight, but it's not always the case. For some, in my experience, doing certain experiments with valves, or with the valves actually being in spec, I don't know why it just cuts off sometimes, but it just does. It can catch you off guard. It's quite unsafe, but just be mindful of that. It could be an EFI issue. Don't know. Another thing to watch out for would be this little campfire tube.
Here's a picture that I have of the campfire tube earlier on in my ownership. It doesn't necessarily get this full every single time, but it's just an example of how full it gets with gasoline or whatever else it is in there.
Okay, you're generally supposed to empty it literally after every ride, because after every ride it fills up with God knows what, whether it's fuel or oil or just blow by from the engine. So if that is leaking on you, don't take it too seriously. It's supposed to. Basically, literally after every ride, it's always leaked with something. Okay, now going on to some of the most recent issues, has been fluids leaking all over the place.
Keep in mind, all the gaskets where the fluids potentially could be leaking from, they've all been replaced from my engine teardown that I did about 7 months ago. So you guys can see here, we've replaced the base gasket where the cylinder meets. We also replaced the head gasket and other various gaskets for the valve train as well, as you guys will see here momentarily. There was also other gaskets as far as the cooling system, and pretty much everything when we tore it apart, any gasket and other use items, we replaced them with new ones.
Now for my bike, when it comes to the gaskets, such as the head gasket and upper cylinder stuff and lower base gaskets, water seals, things of that nature, it was about 7 months ago, or 8 months ago now, in May of last year, my bike was actually taken all the way down to CSC once again to attempt to address the valve recession issue the first time. But so at that point in time, all the gaskets were pretty much replaced on the top end, and in October I was riding this bike, continuing to ride the bike back and forth from work, and I noticed that every time that I parked it, it would just, leave like a little droplets of oil on the floor. And at first I thought it was the valve covers, so I went ahead and put, gasket on the valve covers, continued to ride it, and then it continued to leak oil on the floor. And at that point in time, in conjunction with the electrical issues, the valve recession, now I have gaskets leaking all over the place. I just got done with the bike. I was just tired of it. And so this is pretty much where it's been parked for the past 2.5 months. And as you guys can see, it's made quite a pool for itself. And again, the gaskets that are in the bike, they're not very old, but this just really just plays back to my point. The build quality of this bike is so poor that all of these issues that I've been talking about thus far, these are generally issues that you would expect to be experiencing on a motorcycle of a much older age, 15, 20, 25 years old. Not something that's 1 year old. But this is what happens when you purchase, a very low quality, low build quality machine in comparison to something that's a much higher quality. But if you're like me out there, you're a much newer rider, you are new to motorcycles, you don't really know too much or have much of a background, you've never even owned a bike from a more reputable manufacturer, you hear these fables, or you hear these rumors about this bike being just as good as fit and finish, is just as good as fill in the blank motorcycle. I'm here to tell you, after just 1 year of riding this bike daily, every single day, as much as I could, truth be told, if this bike gave me no problems, at this very point in time, I would probably have well over 15,000 miles on the odometer. But because of all the issues that I've experienced with this bike, I was only able to put 7,400 miles on the odometer because of so many setbacks. And I don't want you guys to have the wrong idea. This bike was babied, okay? I have a plethora of maintenance videos out there. I'm probably just going to go ahead and play them in the background where we talk about certain aspects about maintenance when it comes to this bike.
Here is a copy of my completed maintenance log for my CSC RX3. Each one of these line items corresponds with a Facebook post that I've done in the Facebook group CSC motorcycle owners, and also in the CSC RX3, RX4, and RX6 Facebook groups. If you're not a part of those groups, you should be a part of those groups, so that way you guys can see some of these items correspond with those Facebook posts. Not every single maintenance that I've done, not all of them are documented on YouTube. The majority of them, especially early on in my ownership, was documented solely on Facebook. It wasn't until after my first valve adjustment that I started posting videos on YouTube. So especially if you want to see the first oil change. I would highly suggest that you check out the Facebook group. But as you guys can see here, we have these color coded with different categories. The blue is mainly upgrades or swapping in new components. The green would be oil changes. The red would be valve adjustments or any other major maintenances. The orange would be more general maintenance, adjusting, cleaning, lubricating, things of that nature. And then lastly, the pink would be scheduled maintenances. So major maintenances are not always bad. As long as they're accompanied with a pink star that gets scheduled, then it's fine, because you're supposed to do, for example, the valve adjustments. You're supposed to do valve adjustment maintenances at certain intervals. But generally speaking, when these red stars pop up, which we're going to see a lot of them, these are unscheduled major incidents where the bike needed major attention. The vast majority of them are valve adjustments because it was performing poorly, or other incidences where, for example, my battery died and I was stranded at work. So as you guys can see here, we have first valve adjustment. It continues to go on. We have the second valve adjustment here at 1,265 miles, third at 1,421, fourth at 1,720, fifth, it goes on and goes on. We then took the bike to CSC at this point to get the engine top end rebuild, and we go through the whole engine break-in process again, and the list goes on. Down here it continues. All in total, we have 18 red star incidences. 15 of those red star incidences are valve adjustments. And we also have done motorcycle service intervals. So every recommended service interval, I've done the maintenance items that were listed here. Not necessarily all of them, because some of these were done, or some of these items were checked. For example, this one was like 500 miles, or actually less than 500 miles before the engine was rebuilt. So while it was there at CSC, some of these items, they just didn't apply. But then there's others like the 5,000 mile maintenance, okay, and then the 7,000 mile maintenance. So I've been following all the scheduled maintenances that are in accordance with CSC, and when it comes to these maintenances are on my YouTube channel. Yeah, starting from the beginning here, we have a plethora of things, from general maintenances, cleaning the chain, lubricating things, doing synthetic oil changes, dealing with the valve recession in the beginning, doing the 2,500 mile maintenance right here. List goes on. 5,000 mile maintenance, which is coming up, yeah, right here. Again, list goes on. And once again, here's just a brief look at some of the posts that I've done since the very beginning, where I actually received my bike, started to do a bit of the engine break-in, doing some of the first upgrades, and dealing with doing my first oil change and things of that nature. There's a lot of history here. So if you're not a part of the Facebook group, please become a part of the Facebook group to get to know a little bit more about how this bike was maintained overall. All right, I want to talk about certain aspects about maintenance when it comes to this bike, because there's a lot of issues that you're going to be dealing with a bike of this magnitude, because it's so built so poorly with such low quality control, poor quality materials. There's just certain issues that you're going to be dealing with this bike that you just shouldn't have to when it comes to a brand new machine. And here's a prime example of a issue that I had to deal with, like many others. These bearings that I had in my suspension linkage had absolutely no grease on them whatsoever. It was barely anything, right? Almost bone dry, and my bike was squeaking like mad. I mean, these are small little things, but again, as a new rider, there's just certain aspects about motorcycle ownership, especially when you're purchasing a brand new motorcycle, that you try to avoid. Like, you spend the new motorcycle money to avoid old, beat up, used motorcycle problems, right? And when you buy a Chinese bike, you're paying this premium, but you're not really getting away from the old motorcycle bike problems, right? And I know you might be saying to yourself, well, this bike, it comes with a warranty. And that's true. The thing about the warranty when it comes with this bike, unless you live close to CSC or have a mom and pop shop that's willing to work on unknown motorcycles in your area, the warranty is pretty much useless. Or really, it's just parts and not really labor. That's the thing about owning an unknown Chinese bike, because most mechanics who actually take pride in their work, they're most likely not going to want to touch a unreliable, unknown Chinese bike with a 10-foot pole, because most shops, especially reputable ones, they have a warranty on their work. So just take this scenario. You bring the bike in, you have a certain issue, you have a certain problem, like the valve recession that I've experienced with my bike, or it could be backfiring, right? Which this bike does no matter what you do. You bring it in, you have it fixed on the warranty, and because that shop needs to warranty the work, whether it be 60 days, 90 days, right? If the bike comes back in, which is very likely to do, now that mechanic is going to have to do the work all over again, on their dime and not be paid for it. And so this is why they don't want to deal with it, because they've most likely had no name brand, cheap bikes come in and out of the shop in the past, and they just don't want to touch them. Okay. And that's why it's so difficult to find places to get your bike serviced. And so pretty much when it comes to the warranty or just maintenance in general, you're all on your own. And that's not such a big deal, but that's not why you decided to buy a brand new bike in comparison to an older, potentially beat up, unknown maintenance history type bike. You bought a brand new bike expecting to only have to do general maintenance according to the service center rules. And as long as you do the maintenance according to the service center rules, you should have a pretty smooth experience. Now, I'm not necessarily saying a bike can never have any issues or never break down severely. I'm not saying the bike has to be perfect. All I'm saying is, when you're dealing with a bike of this nature, where its quality is so poor, the amount of services that you're going to be required to do and certain maintenances that you're going to be required to do and potential unforeseen maintenances, possibly even doing top end rebuilds prematurely and having excessive and premature wear it's too great, especially if you're going to be using the motorcycle as I have, which I really suggest that you don't, as a daily commuter or a daily transport type vehicle. Okay. And so all the responsibility is placed on your head. But again, you didn't spend $6,000 to become a, intern motorcycle mechanic. You spent $6,000 to have a relatively trouble-free ownership experience. Generally speaking, or I hope you did, right? I mean, if I wanted to be an intern motorcycle mechanic, I could have just spent $200 to $500, bought a bike from a project bike from the junkyard, and, you know, could have done the same thing. Okay. Also mentioning, you know, what happens when you have to do more and more excessive maintenance is just like myself, where we had to deal with valve recession issues over and over and over again. And getting a new head doesn't solve the issue. You know, what about a lemon law? Well, there's your loophole. In order to have a lemon law go into full effect, the bike needs to be serviced. Serviced where? Serviced at CSC? Well, we don't live there. We're not very close. Okay, well, try to service it at some other shop. They don't want to touch it. You know, and then because you as the owner are the one who's doing all the work, your own physical hand, it's very easy for CSC to just say, well, no, these issues are all due to malpractice by the owner. So now you're stuck with a bike that you ultimately don't want, that is a lemon, or really should be a lemon, and by other standards from pretty much any other manufacturer would have been recalled. You would have had some type of buyer protection, things of that nature. Obviously, I'm not the only person who has experienced this. There's many other folks within the forums and things of that nature who've also had lemon bikes or just experienced excessive issues with their motorcycles, and CSC has just avoided the lemon law like the plague. So having to deal with certain issues, reoccurring issues on this bike, for example, the valve recession. Here's another example of me adjusting the valves. I have plenty of videos on my channel of me adjusting valves. Doing certain maintenances over and over and over again, such as this, is really the definition of insanity. And what this bike has really taught me is that, you know, there's no amount of wrenching and no amount of fixing that's going to transform a very unreliable, cheap, low quality bike into something that's reliable. It really is a definition of insanity. And truth be told, I mean, it's the low quality parts that is causing the issue. So even if you do, for example, go along with the warranty of getting a new head, even if you do the work yourself, it's only going to be a matter of time before the head fails again, and then you have to do it again and again and again. And it's just insanity. It's much better for you to just buy a quality used machine, or if you just have to buy something brand new, you just have to have something new, then I recommend the Royal Enfield brand. If you have to have something brand new and a cheap bike, the Royal Enfield brand is coming out with some really awesome bikes, and they seem to be doing quite well with the quality department. But otherwise, buy a good used Japanese, preferably, or just any other reputable manufacturer. All right, it has a long history of reliability. You can do the research. There's plenty of actual consumer reports out there. There's common issues and problems from that you can get from databases of service centers. It's a much better buy and a much better ownership experience to have a bike like that. And matter of fact, I'm going to show you guys my maintenance log for my brand new bike and in comparison to my old maintenance log for my RX3 here in a moment. And here it is. Since the beginning of my ownership, basically the majority of it, I have the same legend that I use on the RX3 maintenance. Blue is upgrades, green is oil changes, red is the major stuff, orange is the minor stuff, and then pink is the scheduled. The majority of my maintenances have just been adding upgrades. There's been a couple minor stuff, just cleaning the chain, cleaning and lubing the chain, changing oil. I adjusted the valves once because Well, the valves, they were adjusted 6-7 years ago, and I have no clue how many miles ago that was. That was possibly 6,000, 7,000 miles ago. Who knows? Maybe even more. So I went ahead and adjusted them. They needed to be adjusted. So, or mainly this guy. It was mainly just this exhaust one. But I went ahead and just made everything at the same level. Then continue to add more new stuff, and then I upgraded. I mean, this is really an upgrade, but I categorize it as a major maintenance because of how, I would say, difficult it was. But upgraded the doohickey, and that's it. So for the past 2,700 miles, I've done one valve adjustment. The vast majority of everything else has just been regular maintenance. Compared to my RX3, within 2,700 miles, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 major maintenance events, including a engine top end rebuild. Vast majority of those being valve adjustments. So 9 valve adjustments and an engine top end rebuild. Okay. Buy a motorcycle from a quality manufacturer, preferably Japanese, and your ownership experience is going to be drastic. However, if you just have to buy something brand new, you just have to, I suggest that you purchase something from the Royal Enfield manufacturer. And there's a video, once again, by Fort9 where he tested engine break-in oils from different manufacturers. This is where I'm getting the data from. So I'm gonna share this clip with you guys, and then after that we'll just have my final remarks.
I took first service oil from 12 new motorcycles.
Some were clearly made with pride in hermetically sealed workshops, while others wouldn't pass muster in a North Korean prison factory.
The moral of this story is so compelling, we'd better start from the beginning. So, I was just contacted by a cleanliness technician at a major car company, and their job is to run first service oil through a software-equipped microscope that counts the number of particles, bigger than 5 micrometers, bigger than 10, 15, etc., etc. It's like a report card for how clean the manufacturing is. And this person has offered some extremely expensive lab hours to run tests for us. It's a rare opportunity.
You've heard the hearsay. Japanese parts fit together tighter than a nun's knees. German build quality blitzes triumph. Italian machining is done after a 3-hour liquid lunch. Harley-Davidson tolerances are measured in feet. And Chinese knockoffs are so poorly executed, they escape copyright laws.
But now we have a chance to test the stereotypes. Objectively. I've promised to keep our anonymous lab partner anonymous, but I can tell you that the car maker they work for is not Honda or BMW or any other company with skin in this game. Of course, we won't be involving the manufacturers either. They'd only cheat or otherwise refuse to play, like Russia.
So I light the bat signal for volunteers with brand new bikes, and thank you. Thank all of you.
Now, our method is prescribed by the anonymous scientist. What she said to do, and it's not necessarily a woman, but let's pretend, because she said to
warm the oil in preparation.
That's what she said.
Prepare unused sterile containers to trap all fluids.
That's what she said.
Shake vigorously.
That's what she said.
Then take a 100 milliliter deposit.
After that, we just do what DJ Khaled would do.
Another one, plus Harley-Davidson, Yinchang, BMW, Triumph, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Honda, Yamaha, and Aprilia.
Now these samples are destined to fly across the world for proper analysis, but if I had to ballpark it on a scale from 1 to Italian, the cliches are looking accurate. Hot off the plane are results, and immediately there's a problem.
The Chinese motor was so full of shit it broke the fancy microscope.
What do you want to talk to me for? I didn't do anything.
I understand you were doing some kind of experiment today.
Seriously, these are just the contaminants from a quarter of our sample. The lab software couldn't analyze any more, so they tested 25 milliliters and multiplied by 4.
Remember that we're talking about carbon and metal shavings, but also cloth fibers, sand from molds, plastic from packaging, all things you'd find in an assembly area, but not things you'd want in a cleanly and precisely built motor. While most samples play in the hundreds of thousands, Yinchang hits 11,880,000 particles. The only other bikes in the millions, unsurprisingly, are Italian, Aprilia and Ducati.
Nacque così un mezzo a 2 ruote, potente, veloce, ma con qualche inconveniente.
The picture at 5 micrometers is echoed at 15, and 50, and 100.
Ooh, see, the small particles mean grinding, blasting, abrasion, premature wear. Medium particulate will cause actual mechanical alterations like scratching and imprinting, while the biggest stuff can lead to clogging and engine failure. All bad.
We tried to count.
Once again, guys, I'm going to have this video in the description. You guys need to check it out. It's very informative, but I'm also going to show you guys a sample of my first oil change. This is on within the Facebook group. Here's a screenshot of some of the soup that came out of my engine at 248 miles. I also have a video here as well. You can, or even more pictures where there's a bunch of metal shavings, and just in general, looking at the catch pan, there's a lot of different specs all over the place, and I kind of wish that I sent this oil in for an analysis just like Ryan F9 did, but I probably would have broke their machine as well. The first oil change on any brand new motorcycle tells you a lot about the build quality, the engineering, manufacturing, and overall what your potential ownership experience is going to be like as a new motorcycle owner. And I wish I knew that way back when, before I started doing research and decided to pull the trigger on purchasing this bike. But here I am making this video for you guys out there who are curious about this motorcycle. Also those who are possibly brand new to motorcycling, a newer rider, just like I was, didn't know too much about it. This is just my warning to you. Do not follow the stigmatism. Don't follow the fables of, Chinese bikes are just as good as fill in the blank whatever bike, right? I mean, this motorcycle here is 18 years old. It is built with 1980s technology, and even still to this day runs like a clock. Okay, and this is the latest and greatest, one of the finest to come from China, and well, the quality speaks for itself. So overall, my final conclusion, especially if you're someone who is a brand new rider, do not invest $6,000 or buy any type of Chinese product brand new for your first bike, or even for your second bike, whatever bike. It's much better for you to go ahead and invest that money into a quality used Japanese or any other motorcycle from a reputable manufacturer. And according to that video that Ryan F9 uploaded, testing the oil quality, it seems like Royal Enfield, if you're really looking for a brand new, really cheap bike, it seems like Royal Enfield is really stepping their game up. And
that would be a brand. If you just have to buy something brand new, that would be a motorcycle brand that I would highly recommend. All right, I hope you guys found this very informative, entertaining. Go ahead and take a look at some of the videos that I have posted towards the end of this video. Keep a lookout for my updated should you buy a CSC motorcycle to save money on gas video that I'm going to be releasing here soon. And thank you guys for watching. Until next time, guys, safe out there, and